Ohio home prices are still rising, even as inventory explodes and price cuts surge. So, what's really happening in the Ohio housing market? That's what we're going to look at today on the Ohio Housing Nerd. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Jason Ferrier. I am the housing nerd. I'm also the Ohio housing nerd. And you can think of me as your no BS guide to this crazy Ohio housing market. Now, if you're joining us, hit the like button when you join so other Ohioans can join in as well and find out what's happening with all the latest data. And drop your zip code below so that I can analyze your local housing market on today's live. So I'm excited that you're joining me. Happy Friday. Let's dive into the Ohio housing market. Now, quick disclaimer, I'm not a accountant. I'm not an attorney. I'm just a realtor. I'm just an investor here in Central Ohio. But I am your guide to this no BS housing market. So let's jump in right now. I've got some great info to share with you. Now, what we're going to do first is just take a look at the national picture, because I think it's important to understand what's happening throughout the U.S., and I'll give you a 90-second update. So, active inventory of homes for sale. In other words, how many homes we have on the market right now. That is up slightly, 6.27% year over year. So we've got a few more homes on the market than we did last year nationally, but notice that line is declining. We're just not seeing an explosion of inventory anymore. It's kind of died off. And that is causing home prices to remain sticky, especially here in Ohio. But if we look at the demand next in the housing market, you can see that the number of homes sold only up 0.8%. We're just not getting a lot of demand either. So it's like people aren't buying, and quite frankly, they're just not selling either. It's definitely a frozen market. Now, if we look at prices nationally, up 2% year over year. So, I mean, it is what it is, folks. When you look at the median sale price through the U.S. right now, it is 2% higher than this time last year. Unbelievable, but it's true. It has not fallen underneath 2024. So that's that's obviously a shocking thing considering all the inventory we've gained. And, a lot of people think the economy is in ruins. So it's, prices continue to march forward, and we're going to look at Ohio next. So that's what's happening nationally. But if we look at Ohio, just the state itself, and we take a look at inventory, in other words, how many homes are on the market, you could see about 16%, nearly 17% more homes on the market versus this time last year. The problem is that when you look at the number of homes for sale versus 2019, we're still down nearly 27%. So we have 27% fewer homes on the market than we did in 2019 in the state. And that is not good when it comes to prices. So then when we look at prices, in Ohio, we're actually up 3.6% year over year. So nationally up 2%, and Ohio up 3.6%. So today we're going to try to figure out why home prices are still high in Ohio. And I can tell you one of the reasons is because of inventory in a lot of areas, especially inventory of good homes, affordable medium price homes in many spots are very hard to come by. And if we look at prices, if we go back to prices and just look at how much they've changed since 2020, since before COVID. I mean, folks, this is just not great. We're seeing a 50% increase in home prices in 5 years. And some areas of Ohio, we're seeing record high home prices. So I'm going to get to the major cities in Ohio next We're going to dive into the Columbus, Cleveland, Cincinnati. We're going to look at Dayton as well. And then I'll leave it up to you to tell me what you want me to examine next. What zip code, what metro, maybe what county you want me to look at. And I'm happy to do it. So let's do the first city. Let's do a metro look and take a look at Cleveland. So when I look at, I'll start with inventory. I usually do anyway. So inventory of homes for sale in Cleveland right now. Let me do this. Let me just zoom out here for a second. You can kind of see what's going on in the state and how it compares to Cleveland. Inventory year over year up 11.7%. So they've got nearly 12% more homes for sale in Cleveland than they did this time last year. Seems like a good thing, right? And it should be a good thing. But look at the inventory versus pre-COVID. Down 42%. So Ohio's down about 26% since COVID with the number of homes for sale. But when you look at Cleveland, they're down 43% in the number of homes. That's not going to help prices. Not at all. Not at all. So let's look at the inventory count in Cleveland. You can see 3,928 homes on the market right now. Go back to 2019, 6,838 homes on the market. I mean, they had a lot more homes then. Go back to 2016, for goodness sakes. They had nearly 9,000 homes on the market. Now they only have 3,900 homes on the market in the entire area of Cleveland, the metro area. So that's just not going to cut it. We need more homes coming to market. And because of that, you can see the prices now. Look at the prices, 4.6% up year over year. Prices are continue to march forward in Cleveland. They do. And I don't think anything would show it better than this. If I go back to Redfin here and look at the metro level in Cleveland, look at this, how it's elevated. I mean, right now, Redfin has this up with the latest data up 8% in Cleveland. It's not any better at all. It's completely detached from reality for locals. A lot of investors are still buying there. I think like 27% of all sales are by investors. So it's, it continues to be very difficult in the Cleveland area. Now, there are homes for sale, not like there aren't any homes. And there are areas that prices could be falling. But overall in the metro, that's what's happening. Now, let me look at this tab here. I'm going to go back to these maps. And I'm going to look at Columbus. If I could spell it right. All right, Columbus, Ohio. Inventory of homes for sale up 24%. And there's a lot of homes inside the city for sale, a lot more. But are they good homes? That's the question. And really, I need your help with that. I need to understand from you if you're like, man, Jay, I see a lot of houses in my area, but nothing that is like move-in ready or nothing that is what you would consider a house that's ready to move into and priced well. I'm not seeing that or hearing a lot of people finding that. And I think that's one of the issues we're running into, even if we see more homes on the market. If I look at home prices, let me go back to inventory. Let me show you inventory versus 2019. So Cleveland was actually down 46%, right, in the number of homes for sale versus 2019. Look at Columbus. Up 0.3%, completely different situation. A lot more homes than what Cleveland has. Look at this, It's definitely getting elevated. I mean, we've got 4,400 homes on the market right now. Back before COVID, had about 4,400 homes. We're right there at pre-COVID levels, which is a good thing. And you go back to 2016, you're at 5,200 homes for sale. So Columbus, unlike Cleveland, is continuing to add more and more homes. During the height of the great financial crisis, we had 20,000 houses listed in Columbus. So we're way off from the great financial crisis levels in 2008, if you were around for that. Some people weren't. Some people weren't even, adults then. But yeah, I mean, I was around then, and yeah, I had a lot of homes on the market. So that's what's happening with inventory. Now we look at prices in Columbus. What's happening with prices? Up 1.4% year over year. Not a lot of growth in Columbus in home prices. It's kind of stagnated. Definitely not like Cleveland. That's for sure. But again, this is overall in the metro. This doesn't mean in your particular neighborhood it's the same way. We'll look at that, and that's what you have to drop in the comments for me to look at. So do that, and hit the like button if you're joining us a little late. It helps get more people involved, and we can learn about their markets and what's happening in different parts of Ohio. 51% growth in home prices since 2020 in Columbus. 51% growth in home prices, but now they're only up 1.4%. This is a key distinction you need to make and understand that home prices now aren't growing like they were 2, 3, 4 years ago. I mean, the days of double-digit home price growth, they're gone, way gone. Now you're at kind of normal levels, even I would say lower levels in Columbus. All right, that's Columbus. Now let's look at Cincinnati. Now keep in mind, again, these are the metro areas. They're not necessarily individual zip codes, but I can look at that level. You just got to tell me where to look and what's going on, why you want me to look there. Are you buying, selling, what's happening, investing? Year over year inventory in Cincinnati up 16, nearly 17%. They do have more homes than last year. Most places do, which is okay. That's a good thing, right? But down 20%, down 20% versus pre-COVID levels. So Cincinnati is like Cleveland. They're behind the 8 ball when it comes to, inventory growth since the pandemic. And if I look at how many they have on the market, 4,347 homes. They had 7,981 homes back in 2016. And before COVID, they had 5,400 homes. So again, they are adding inventory in Cincinnati, but not at the clip that we need probably to see some type of major price decline. Now let's look at prices. 2.8% up year over year. 2.8%. So price is growing more than Columbus, but not like Cincinnati or not like Cleveland, where Cleveland's up, 5%. Redfin has Cleveland up 8%. Now let's look at since 2020 and see what Cincinnati has done. My apologies. Cincinnati. That's what we're looking at. 51% growth in home prices in Cincinnati. Yeah, continues to go higher for longer, they say, right? I guess that's the mantra. It's definitely what's happening. All right. Let's now look at, everybody wants me to look at Dayton. So let's look at Dayton. Inventory in Dayton, Ohio, up 22% year over year. And since 2019, Dayton is down 13%. So they still have fewer homes, just like Cincinnati, just like Cleveland. They have fewer homes for sale than they did in 2019. Let's look at home prices. What are home prices doing? Oh, no home price available for Dayton, huh? Come on, Resi Club, help me out. That's weird. Okay, well, I'm going to have to go to my other info here, or go to Redfin. Let me type in Dayton, see what's happening. Home prices in Dayton, Ohio, according to Redfin anyway, 238 grand, up 5% year over year. They haven't fallen at all year over year. Like there hasn't been a point in this year where you've been under last year's home prices. What does that mean? It just means home prices continue to march higher and higher and higher. Now that we're in Redfin, let me just look at the active listings there. That may give us kind of a hint as to what's happening. I mean, look at active inventory, up 14% year over year. We know that. But if you look back historically, just not the homes you need to cause any type of price crash in Dayton. Although you are gaining inventory, there's no doubt. All right, let me look if anybody has a metro you want me to look at. And some comments before I get started, because I do have some metros people have requested in the comments from previous videos, and I'll do those as well. What's up, TH2? Good afternoon to you as well. Hey, Clayton. Yes, I'll get to that. 44140. I'll do that one. Gina P. 44095. I'll do that one. I got that one starred. Christine Zimmerman, you're always here. Thank you for always participating. 44321. Overpriced. Prices are reduced or showing back on the market or just taken off the market. Oh, I'm right. Well, thanks. I'm not always right. But yeah, that's it's just you are seeing price cuts in some areas. Well, all areas you're seeing price cuts, but you're just not seeing a home prices decline yet as far as the actual sale price. There's a lot of wish pricing out there, folks. People that, quite frankly, price their home way too high. I'm sure you see it all the time in your Ohio neighborhoods where people are like, hey, I'm going to price my home at 500 grand, even though the comps say 450, because I have bigger cabinets. I have custom cabinets, or I have a pool, or I have a man cave, or I don't know. I had somebody overprice a home one time because they had a fish tank. Didn't add any value to the house. A lot of people don't want a fish tank. So point is, people are overpricing their homes, and then they have to price cut to bring them back to reality. And sometimes they just get frustrated and take their toys and go home and take it off the market, like Christine's saying. But thanks for joining us, Christine. I will do your zip code as well. I know we look at it a lot, but it doesn't hurt to look at it again. So let me start with Mr. Clayton. Clayton, 44140. Let's look at it. Now, by the way, I'm using Resi Club Analytics. That's the website I'm using. It's called the Resi Club Terminal. Fantastic way to get real estate data. It is rather expensive. It's about $500 a year. Lucky for you, I've had permission to share it as long as I mention where I'm getting the data. Resi Club's cool with it, and you don't have to pay the $500. You just tune into the Ohio Housing Nerd, and life's good. All right, let's start in 44140, which is up by the lake, right? Let's find out what's happening. Inventory. How many homes, Clayton, you got on the market there? It's up 17% year over year. If I go to active inventory count, you've got about 27 homes in that zip code. 27 homes for sale right now. Now that's as of the end of September, right? October 1 is how they're pulling that data. But you can tell that you have gained a little bit more inventory, but man, when you only have 27 homes, hard to gain a lot, right? Let's look since 2019. You're down 58%. I'm sorry, 56, nearly 57%. Meaning, if we go back to the inventory count, you just don't have a lot of homes on the market. I mean, back in the day, you had 2018, you had 65 homes. Now you've got 27. So that's not what, well, it depends on what you're doing. If you're selling a home, this could be good news for you because less competition, right? If you're buying a home, you've got fewer choices, and the sellers probably still, for the most part, hold the cards, I would think. Now, one thing I can look at here too is median days on market, how long homes are sitting. They're sitting 47 days. That's how long it takes a home to go into contract there. 47 days. Last year, it was 46 days. So they're sitting about 1 day longer. It's not like, you know, buyers or it's not like sellers are leaving them on the market forever. I'm sure you're seeing that. People are actually buying houses there, it looks like. But price reductions, how many price reductions you have? Yeah, look at this. Only 9.6% of your listings have had price reductions. That's low. So not a lot of price reductions there. It must be a really nice area. Um, it's up by the lake, so I'm sure it is, right? But let's look at prices now and see what's happening. Yeah, you're up 7%. Look at that. Goodness gracious. If you can see that or not, but you're up 7%. I mean, it's almost like some of these areas are Teflon when it comes to prices because the inventory's been so bad. And there is still demand in the housing market, believe it or not. People are buying homes. Since 2020, if we go back 5 years, the reason we do that, Clayton, look at 5 year history, is because before COVID, the housing market was relatively normal, I guess. But ever since COVID, ever since COVID started, home prices have gone straight up in some areas. And so that's why we look at that 5 year history. If you go back 5 years, this means that home prices are now 50% more expensive than they were in 2020. That's what that means. So you've got fewer homes for sale than 2019, the pre COVID, and home prices are 50% more expensive than pre COVID. And that's the kind of the trend we've seen in most of the state and nationally too. So more of the story is you need more inventory to come to market for prices to decline. And that could come from sellers being desperate. That could come from new builds, but in Ohio, not a lot of new builds and overall. And then it could come from second homes, maybe. But unless there's a flood of inventory and a lot fewer people wanting to buy properties in your zip code, I don't know that home prices are going to meaningfully fall. They could just continue to go up. Let's look at the typical sale price. So this is the typical single family house value. This is the middle range of homes. They take out the cheap homes, they take out the most expensive homes. This is like that middle range that gives us a guide of where the market's headed or where it is right now with prices. $402,000 right now. It's an all-time record high for you in home prices in 44140. I mean, I wish I had better news, but that's what I'm seeing. If you're a buyer, that's not great news. But if you're a seller, it's great. It is good news. So I don't know what you're up to, but that's that's not a good look. I mean, I did the national look yesterday for my national channel, just called Housing Nerd, not Ohio Housing Nerd, just Housing Nerd. Be sure to check that out if you're interested in the national look. And I looked at a lot of other metros across the U.S. Like I looked at California, Florida, Texas, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Tennessee. Like, and we looked all over the place. And I was shocked how many areas are still seeing record high home prices. Not everywhere. Some areas are declining like 5, 6, 7% year over year. But most areas that I examined yesterday from viewer requests, just like what you're doing, showed home prices are still going up. And it feels like they've like reaccelerated at the end of this year. I think because inventory hasn't risen like it should have, or like we expected it to in the second half of the year. All right, let's do. We did single family. We did that value. I did median days on market. Yeah, I did everything. Okay, so that's your look, Clayton. Let me know if what you think. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. Hopefully, I'll get to them. But thanks for suggesting that. Gina P. 44095. 44095. Oh, up by the lake as well, huh? But now we're headed. Now we're headed east, I guess. Inventory. That's where we'll start, Gina, is inventory of homes for sale, because that helps us understand how much inventory is out there, and that will drive prices along with demand. So you are up 18% in the number of homes for sale right now versus last year. That's good. Most areas of Ohio are up year over year with inventory. The problem is with active inventory compared to 2019 levels, you see where we are down 48, nearly 49. I guess you could call it even 50% if you were rounding. So 50% drop in the number of homes versus 2019. That's not going to help your prices. In fact, right now you've got 62 homes on the market. If you go back to before COVID, you had 121 homes on the market. And if you go back to 2016, you had 205 homes on the market. And then what's crazy, and this, I see this throughout the state, the number of homes, the supply was dropping before COVID. I mean, COVID ruined it. But before that, inventory was falling. So like in 2016, you had 205 homes, then 148, then 131, then 121. And then COVID kicked in and you only had 53. Wow. You went from 121 homes in October of 2019 to right before COVID hit. Then we were surprised by COVID, and then you dropped all the way to 53 homes. Nobody was selling then. Like nobody listed their houses, or you had a ton of people buying homes then, which could be the case too, because interest rates were super, super low at that point. In fact, I don't know if I can pull this yet. I thought I was getting let me see if I can get pending listings. Yeah. Okay, good. Pending listings. So yeah, it's elevated through here. This is the number of homes going into contract, showing us kind of the demand of your housing market. And you can see right in 2020, right? Like right around this time, you started to sell more homes. And now you've only sold 54 homes went into contract this month. So demand has been lower recently, meaning people aren't buying as many homes where you live as they were in 2019, 2020, and definitely before that. But unfortunately, you're not getting the inventory either. People aren't listing their homes as much as they maybe traditionally have. And so that number, the inventory count, the supply has been low. And I'm guessing pricing has been difficult. Let's find out. Yeah, I mean, you're still up 3.7% year over year in home prices. So the homes basically are 3.7% more than they were this time last year. That's not fun. That's not fun at all. Unless you're a seller. If you're a seller, you're like, hey, you can, this. I mean, if I'm a seller, I look at this chart and go, oh, well, yeah, I mean, the growth is slowing, but it's not like it's reversing yet. I mean, some areas I looked at yesterday and I'm trying to remember, there weren't a ton, but like in Dallas, I looked at Dallas, Texas, man, prices are down 7% year over year. They've been falling every month for the last 3 years. So people are down there like 20% since 2022 in home prices. But where you live in Ohio, not happening. Up 3.7. Now, let's look at prices since 2020. Prices since 2020 up 45%. 45%. And if I look at the typical home price, $196,000 is the typical home price there. And is that an all-time high? Yeah. Another all-time high. So 2 zip codes so far, folks, 2 all-time high sale prices. I mean, maybe because home prices are $196,000 there, and that's typical. You could pay a lot more probably. You could find something for less, I'm sure. But $196,000. So it's like, I mean, there aren't many areas of the US you can buy a home under 200 grand. So maybe that's why home prices continue to go up here. I don't know, because people are like, oh boy, that's considerably less expensive than most other markets. But to a local, it doesn't feel cheap, right? Believe me, I understand that. So I don't see home prices retreating there. There's not a sign that they're going to reverse. The growth is slowing, but it's not like they're reversing backwards. And by the way, I forgot to do this, but I wanted to look at, let's look at price reductions. How many homes are getting price reductions? You got 27%, which is a decent amount. Means that basically, what's that? Roughly a quarter of all homes, 1 out of 4 homes, have had a price cut. But notice the sale price is still higher than last year when they do sell. Again, it's people that are just pricing their home too high out of the gate. Seen a lot of that. And then we look at how long homes are sitting. Median days on market, 35. So homes are sitting 35 days. Last year they were sitting 33 days. I mean, that's about the typical range. I mean, before COVID, though, they were selling in 50 days, 51 days. Shoot, you go back to 2016, look at this, 79 days back in 2016. So homes were sitting a lot longer. Houses, the market was a lot slower then from a buying standpoint. I mean, as slow as it is now, the homes are only sitting 35 days before they go into contract. Actually, I'm just looking at this note from realtor.com on how they do this. Time between initial listing of property and closing date, or the date it's taken off the market. Okay, yeah. So before it goes into contract. So 35 days. And by the way, that's like, it's still low. Like I remember before COVID, selling homes, they would take sometimes 60 days to go into contract. Nobody really worried about it. It wasn't a big deal. But we got used to homes going in, selling in 1 or 2 days or hours after being listed during COVID. So now it's like not a big deal if it's 35 days though. Still kind of selling quick. All right, let me look here let me see if I have this data. I may not have this. I don't. Shoot. I'm just going to look and see. I should know this. 44095. I want to find out property taxes for you. I just want to look at the, you're in Lake County. Yeah, property taxes there are rough. But I have to look at it from a county level. I can't do zip code. It doesn't have that data. So Lake County, Ohio. I'm just going to look at your taxes. So it says your median annual property taxes are $1,200 there. That seems low. I don't know if that's true to what you're paying, or what you've seen, but that seems really low. Let's look at the rate, the property tax rate. 1.7, which is pretty high. If you zoom out to Ohio on property taxes, you can see that Lake County is 1.7, Cuyahoga is 2.08% property tax rate. So the darker the county, the higher property tax rate. And unfortunately, I don't have like a historical look at where that's traveled, right? Like where were you last year or 2 years ago? I'm hoping to have that data soon, but right now my property tax data is a little not great. I can kind of look at it by county, but that's about it. So that's what's happening with taxes there. $1,200 seems low. It shows your median sale or your typical home value is what, 196 grand. So that's probably why. But if your home was 400 grand, obviously it'd be a lot more. And if your school or your local town you live in, your local township had additional sales taxes or surcharges or additional over surcharges, then you're probably paying a lot more. But hopefully that helped, Gina. And by the way, when you're putting your zip code in, if you have a specific question like, hey, this is what I'm doing, nerd, I'm trying to sell or I'm trying to buy or, invest, or here's my specific question about it, then yeah, that would help me. All right, Christine Zimmerman, 44321. Let's do it. 44321. 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. 27 homes on the market right now, Christine, in 4, 4, 3, 2, 1. And what you're saying is prices are reduced or showing back on the market or just taken off the market. Yeah, that's a classic trick, right? Let me look at price reduction share first, just to see. Yeah, look at this. 36% of all the houses in your zip have had a price reduction. 36. What? That's crazy. That's a lot. I mean, it's over a third. 1 out of 3 homes have had a price reduction. That means people are pricing their homes way too high. They just are. It's just a classic mistake people make. And by the way, if you're selling a home, you have to price it right out of the gate. That entry price is really important. I can't tell you how many times I've messed up, even like flips that I've done where I've priced a house too high. It's easy to do. It's easy to do. And then it ends up sitting because people will not come see it if the price is too high. Unless it's COVID times and people will do anything, but that's long gone. All right, let's look at inventory levels again to help you. All right, so you've got 46% more homes on the market. That's good. You're growing inventory. Compared to 2019, you are down 32%. So 32% fewer homes than 2019. That's not a trend that we like to see if you want lower prices. Yeah, if we go back to that inventory count, you're at 27 homes now. You go all the way back to 2019, you had 40, which doesn't seem like a lot, but when you only have 27 homes, every bit helps. And you go back to 2016, you had 68 homes, 66 homes. So definitely more. And like the other areas, inventory was dropping before COVID. So fewer and fewer homes. Let's look at median days on market. How long are they sitting? 45 days before going into contract. So longer than where we just were in Lake County. And if we go back in time, like in October 2020, they were sitting 63 days. You go back to 2016, they were sitting 68 days. So definitely longer as far as time on the market before COVID. And since then, the buying demand's been a lot higher. I mean, last year they were 23 days before going into contract. But homes are definitely sitting longer now. But it's not insane. 45 days isn't crazy. It's kind of, normal. Home prices up 3.4% year over year. And since 2020, what are they doing? Up 41.5%. So not 50 or 60% at least. And what's going to happen as we continue on, right? As we march on through 2026 and into 2027, you're going to see the 5-year price growth slow, right? This will come down because homes, you're growing at 3 point something now versus 10, 15% year over year. Let's look at the value of your house. Not your house, but typical houses in 44321. $385,000. Is it an all-time high? It looks like it is. Well, you guys have picked winners so far. They're all at all-time highs. I feel for you. I really do. There's no way I could buy my current house right now. Like if it was on the market, and I don't live in anything like amazing. Like my house is built in like 1950. It needs work. I would never be able to afford it. Like I know where it would be priced. I know what the market price is on it. It would not fly. I would not fly at all. So it's disheartening to see these stats where it continues to be higher and higher sale prices. I do feel for you. And taxes now are unhinged. right? So I wonder if we can look at 44321. Let me look at taxes. Summit County, right? Let's look and see. I got to get a county look. There we go. Summit County. Let's look at taxes. They're saying the median annual property tax, that's the property tax in the middle. If I took everybody paying property tax, the one in the middle, $1,341. Unfortunately, this data is as of 2023. Easy for me to say. 2023. I don't have anything for 2025 yet. So I'm sure it's higher now. Again, my tax information here is not as robust as I would like it, but it's what I have to access. 1.5% is your effective property tax rate, which when you zoom out in the state, it's not the worst, but it's not the best, right? I mean, lighter areas are lower property tax rates. The darker ones are obviously higher. So, and if you zoom out in the country, by the way, you can see that Ohio definitely has higher property taxes than a lot of the other areas around us, except if you're in New York or New Jersey or Illinois, where the property tax rates are even higher. I mean, they're ridiculous in those areas. But when you think about, all we care about today is Ohio. When you think about that, Summit County, 1.5%. So it's not low, but it's not the worst it could be. Like Delaware County's 1.6, Montgomery County's 1.78. So it's but nonetheless, property taxes are crushing Ohioans, crushing them. By the way, I have a pretty cool Ohio property tax video coming out maybe this weekend. I did an interview with some different folks I haven't interviewed before that I think would be, I think you guys will like it. All right, let's do the next one. I hope that helped, Christine. Thank you for always participating. Dustin Ward, 43204. Oh, is that in Columbus? 43204. Let me look. Let's do that one. 43204. 43204. Ah. Four 43204. Where are we here? Let me just zoom out and see. Yeah. Yeah, in Columbus, right? I look at so many of these zip codes I can't count. All right. 8.9% with active homes for sale, meaning you've got 9% basically more homes than last year. Not bad. But it's not like it's exploded either in growth. Whoops. Yeah. Then we want to go active inventory versus 2019. You're down 6%. So it's not like some of these other markets we've seen today where they're down like 50% in the number of homes for sale. But I will say inside the cities, inside the metro areas, I am seeing more and more inventory build quicker than outside the cities. I mean, some of these rural areas looks like they'll never catch up with inventory. So I am seeing more homes hitting the market here. Let's see, active inventory count. Yeah, 111 right now. And if you go back to 2019, you've got 118 homes on the market. And then if you go back to 2016, you had 129 homes on the market. Okay. So you are gaining inventory. That's good. Let's see how prices are going. Prices up 1.5% year over year. So you can see this growth, Dustin, if you look at the way the growth is trended, you can see back during COVID. I mean, look at this in September, at the end of September, 2021, home prices were up nearly 17% year over year in 2021, meaning a house in 2021 was 16% on average or 17% higher than it was in 2020. That type of growth you can't sustain because prices would be $1 million, right? Very quickly. So what's happened? Well, that growth has slowed. You had a bump in 22, then you had another bump in 2024. But this year, look what's happened. Price growth is definitely shrinking. There's just a limit as to what people can pay and what incomes can hold in an area, even though conventional wisdom says we're way past that already, right? But they're not crashing. Prices aren't crashing by any means. Let's look at, oh yeah, let's do this. What have you done since 2020 in prices? You're up basically 50%. But think about it. You're up 50% in 5 years effectively. But in 1 year, you're only up like 1.4%. So what does that mean? Well, basically means you got all that growth in a couple years between 2020 and probably mid 2022. So if I look at how much you've grown since 2022, you're only up 8.4%. So if that's 3 years ago, divided by 3 is roughly, we'll call it 3% a year. Versus during COVID, you were up, what, 20% or 16% year over year. So it's, I'm sure you're confused now. I probably confused everybody. But the point is that home price growth has slowed in the last 3 years. And I'm just saying that that's a better sign than them continuing to run up at 16% every year. So that's the good news for buyers, is that the price growth is slowing. Let's look at the value and see what we come up with here. Now, this doesn't tell you your exact value on a house you're looking at or a house you own. It just tells you a typical value for that zip code. $202,000 right now. Now, that's not an all-time high. Wow, we found one, not an all-time high. Holy cow. It looks like you peaked earlier this year at 205,000. So you're a couple thousand off the peak. But this is what I'm talking about when you go back in time to 2019. Man, it's hard to even look at this. Your typical home value in 2019 was $124,000. And in 1 year, it went up to 140. So it climbed 17 grand in 1 year. But the next year, look what happened. It went up $23,000 in just 1 year. Then it went up another $22,000 the following year into 2022. But then the next year it went up only 3 grand. And then you had a $10,000 increase and then just a $3,000 increase again. So that growth is slowing, but the damage has been done with prices. I mean, it's crazy to think about. Before COVID, homes there 123 grand, now over 200 grand. Wow. Wow. They always say the best time to buy real estate was 5 years ago. My wife always says that. I'm like, thanks. That doesn't help me very much. But yeah, that's what's going on, dude. Let me look at price cuts and see what's happening. Price cuts. 30% of all homes have had a price cut, which is higher than the national average. National is like 25. So you have a lot of people right there. You have a lot of homes there cutting their price, a lot of sellers cutting their price, maybe because they overpriced it. There's a lot of flips inside the city. You know, old homes built in 1900, an investor came in, bought the house for probably a really low price, or sometimes not, usually not if they can't unload it. And then they put money into it and then try to sell it as a flip. You know what a flip is, but I'm seeing a lot of flips that are just rotting inside Columbus because the investor paid way too much money. And for some reason, they decided to put finishes that made no sense. They just overdid the finishes, and now the home needs to be sold for a price that doesn't make sense in the market. Those could be areas to find deals. Like if I was trying to find a house to live in right now, an old flip or a flip that's half done is not a bad target as long as you do the inspection right and you know what you're getting into with a 1900 home. But you could score an amazing deal. Find it's an investor that's on the ropes that needs to sell. Could be an area to find an opportunity. But that's what I'm seeing at 43204. All right, what else do I got here? Anybody else? Let's see. Pickaway County. How does it look to buy? Yep, I'll take a look at that one. Let me just go through these real quick. Geauga County, Evil Overlords. Yeah, you wanted Portage County yesterday, right? Yeah, you're welcome. Oh, yeah, thanks for joining me on the national live there, Evil Overlord. Roger Hughes, 43206, German Village and nearby, like Marion Village, Schumacher Place, looking to buy investment property that may be able to function for a business meetings occasionally. Okay, I'll take a look at that. Roger Hughes, could you also look to use it as an STR to offset the mortgage a bit and use personal as family getaway, may buy in the next year or so? Yeah, we'll take a look at that zip code. We've just moved to the area. Decent homes with land are hard to find. We quickly learning to avoid certain areas around Columbus, like the properties around Intel are noisy, congested roads. It's like a war zone over there now, right? I'm only like 10 minutes from Intel, and you go over there and think about what it looked like when I was growing up. It's completely changed, right? And it's sad. Like a lot of those houses are now just in a war zone of construction for could be a decade, could be longer. They could build out that thing for years. Who knows? I agree. Yeah, decent homes with land, very, very tough to find, especially land that's not like expansive. Like if you want like 50 acres, a little more selection. But if you want like that sweet spot of like 5 to 10 acres where you've got some land to have fun, but at the same time, it's not tons and tons of land, very hard, especially with a house that's in great condition. Very, very challenging. Lots of them were their old homes, like old farmhouses that need a complete reno. Those are out there. But yeah. We found homes in Grove City, but the schools aren't highly rated. And then there's the landfill and prison. Ugh. All the things you've been saying for months are spot on. Well, thanks. Thanks for validating my theories, I guess. But yeah, it's welcome to the area. Welcome to Ohio. I think you'll like it here. And if you need help finding a home, maybe you already found one. I don't know if you have it exactly, but if you're looking and you need an agent or a realtor, give me a shout. She Loco 89 43511. Yeah, I'll put that on the list. Yeah, initial listing price very important. MJ, okay, yep, I'll do 43334. What's up, Space Rangers Recording Studio? How are you doing? We need to get rid of property tax completely. I know we're going to get hit somewhere else, right? So we all know that. I'm not sure there are any real solutions. I think there are just trade-offs and compromises. And we have to fund the schools. We have to fund the local services. So there has to be a better way than taxing unrealized gains, though, that just go up with the market. I just heard that Ohio is going to have their largest, some areas of Ohio are going to see their largest property tax increase in history. But doesn't make a lot of sense to me considering home values are only going up. Well, you saw them today, 1%, 3%, 5%, not 50%. So it'll be interesting to see what happens there. But I would anticipate until something is reformed or done with property taxes, that your property taxes are going to continue to go up. I don't see how they're going to go down anytime soon. They are unconstitutional. I understand that. Yeah. But right now, it is what it is. I'm just looking for any, and I'll get to your other comments soon. I'm just looking at if they have any other areas they want me to analyze. All right, let's get to these areas. Let's see. You said Pickaway County, right? That's what you want to look at. How does Pickaway County? All right, let's look. That's where that drone facility is, right? Pickaway County, Ohio. Inventory in Pickaway County, you got 22% more homes on the market than last year. If I look since 2019, you actually are up 38%. Huh. So this is completely different. You've got more homes than you had before COVID. That's good. 163 homes right now on the market. That's a decade high. Now, that could be because of new construction. Maybe there's some new housing developments there. They're adding inventory that never had a chance to add inventory before, because this is a decade high level of homes for sale. But in the whole county, only 163 homes. That's where I did that. I did the solar video down there in Pickaway County. It was like on the border of Ross and Pickaway counties. Let's look at prices now. Home prices, 3.1% up year over year. So home prices are not crashing. They were up 19% in 2021. They were up 19% year over year. So that price growth was ridiculous. Now at least it's back to somewhat normal, 3% year over year. Let's look since 2020. How are they doing? Since 2020, up 54%. Goodness. Now, what are homes worth there? Or what's the typical value? 325. It looks like, yeah, it's an all-time high price there right now. My guess, and this is a pure guess, is that there's a lot of newer homes being built there, or there are newer homes being put on the market in Pickaway County because of the development there. And maybe that's causing, that's going to cause the price to go up, because new homes, a lot of times, where there haven't been any new homes, now those are going to be $500,000-$600,000 homes, and that drives obviously the price up. But overall, homes are just more expensive there. 325. That's an all-time high. Goodness. You could see that run up right here, right? Like they went from 358 to 390. They went up $30,000 in 1 year. And the year before that, they went up $30,000. Holy cow. So in 2 years, you had a $60,000 increase in the typical home value in just 2 years. Since then, it's calmed down somewhat, because you had a $12,000 increase, then a $13,000 increase, then a $9,000 or $10,000 increase. So, I mean, still went up 10 grand year over year. But at least you didn't have a $30,000 increase. Those two years just were not favorable to the housing market, the health of the housing market. All right, let's look in Pickaway County now at price reductions. 34% of all homes have had a price reduction. And let me look at, I wish I had shortcuts on here. I'll have to ask Mr. Lance Lambert from Resi Club about that. So it says the property tax rate is actually, well, this is as of 2023. It's 1.03%, median annual property tax, $1,556, according to Resi Club. So I don't know. That seems low. I'm going to have him look at see if he has any updated data, because I don't know if this is helping us much. It gives us some kind of sense of it, but it's got to be higher than that. I may have the insurance premium. Okay, they show the average insurance premium there, or the median insurance premium, not average, $1,500. This is as of 2023 as well. Probably not what we need as far as data. Probably need something a little more updated. So maybe I'll stop sharing that. That's what's happening in Pickaway County. I mean, it looks like there are homes for sale, more than you had last year. But, and more than you've had since, also, you're actually more than 2019. Sorry, I just had a weird thing pop up on my screen. Let me just double check that. Yes, since 2019, you're up too. So more homes for sale, but I don't know that they're affordable homes. I don't know if they're new construction. I can't see that in my data, but definitely have more choices. All right, next, Geauga County. Let's look at it. Geauga County. If you're joining us, hit the like button for me. That's the only thing I ask. Don't be a freeloader. Okay, inventory. I think this is going to be a different situation than we saw with Pickaway. Yeah, you're up 4.2% in the number of homes for sale, evil overlord. But look, since before COVID, down 61%. Pickaway County have more homes for sale than before COVID. Now in Geauga County, though, only down 61%. Only 149 homes on the market in the entire county. And look, in 2019, 382 homes on the market. I mean, that's a huge difference. I mean, it makes it very difficult for buyers. And it makes it so that people who want to stay in the county and sell their current home and buy a new one, makes it impossible. Because they're like, well, why would I pay a higher price? There's nothing to pick from, and their rate's probably higher. That's why nobody's listing their homes. Hence why there's no inventory. It's like a vicious cycle. I mean, you had 463 homes back in 2016, for goodness sakes. Median days on market, 48. Homes are sitting 48 days compared to last year, 39 days. But in 2016, 2017, they were on the market like 80 days, 86 days. So homes are still moving quicker than they were before COVID, but they are moving slower than last year. So again, it may take, we may be in this situation, but the horrible reality is we may be in this situation in many areas of Ohio and the US for 5 more years. It could be years before the housing market recovers, before wages catch up to home prices, and it makes sense for people to start moving, right? To selling their current home, putting their $300,000 home on the market and buying a $600,000 home. It's, I mean, in Ohio, homes are old. Most houses in Ohio are very old. And there's not a ton of new construction happening. It's, yeah, I don't have an answer on how to fix the supply problem in some of these counties, except build more homes. And they should be affordable homes, right? Or renovate older ones. But everything costs money. So anyway, that's what's going on. Not a ton of you still have buyer demand. You do, unfortunately. Well, unless you're a seller, because that's good if you're a seller. I keep saying that like you guys are all buyers, but maybe you're not. 4.6% up in prices. Home prices are up 4.6% year over year. And you don't have to be, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to look back through here, and you could just see the massive amount of growth that you experience in a very short period of time. But home prices are not crashing there. They are not crashing. Not falling at all, really. Let's look at typical value. $374,000, an all-time high, another all-time high. I don't know if y'all get on other real estate channels, other national channels or not, and look at, watch their videos. But if you run into somebody on there or you hear somebody say that sellers are desperate, that they're distressed, and that inventory is exploding in the Midwest and prices are caving and falling, I'd love for you to share what's happening in your market, especially if you're at an all-time high price and there's no inventory. I'd love for you to share that with them, because I think there are a lot of YouTubers that are short-sighted with their data. They think for some reason that there's a massive problem throughout the US. Problem being, oh, inventory is exploding, prices are caving, sellers are desperate. It's motivated sellers turning into distressed sellers. Tell me if you've heard that. And it's like, well, to say that it's a wide sweeping statement is crazy. And then when they're pinned down on, hey, what about Ohio or the Midwest? They go, that's a narrative or that's a demographic thing. It's like, hey, I'm evil overlord. I'm trying to find a house in Geauga County. It's 374 grand. It's an all-time high price. That's not a narrative. It's certainly not a demographic thing. It is what it is. It's a high price. I just don't like the dishonesty from some of the YouTubers. I'm just showing you the data on what's here. But yeah, man, 374, an all-time high price. Wow. That's like everything. It's like every area we've looked at except one so far. All right. I wonder what taxes are there if it shows us. Do we already look at that? I don't think we did. There we go. Whoop, that's insurance. Tax rate 1.49%, property tax rate. Annual property taxes, median as of 2023, $1,600. I bet it's higher than that. Ohio is it's like near 4,000 for Ohio. So this date is old. Anyway, hopefully I helped. Roger Hughes, what's up? 43206. Now, Roger, I can't look at a specific area inside of 43206, but my contact information will be in the description below. And so you can email me if you want, and I can pull specific data based on, I can use the MLS because I'm an agent. I have access to the MLS. I can use that and find your data on Marion Village and Schumacher Place. No problem. I can do that. Just shoot me an email and I'm happy to help. But let's look at your zip code nonetheless. And then you had a question about short-term rental, 43206. What do we got? Come on, Resi Club, help me out. What in the world? Oh, I know where that is, though. It's right here. I don't know why it's not zooming in. You're right here. So inventory compared to last year, up 2.2%. Up 2.2%. That's not a lot at all. Wow. That's crazy. You only have 2.2% more homes than last year. Who would think that? Active inventory versus 2019, down 6%. So you're not down that much versus 2019, but it looks like the inventory count has slowed, like the growth has slowed on how many homes. Yeah, you've kind of plateaued here. So 142 homes total in the market. It is up year over year. Your rate around where you were in 2019 before COVID, and it's more than you had in 2016. So definitely more homes on the market. It could be investor homes. I don't know. Let's look at prices though and see what's going on. Home prices year over year, down 1.2% year over year. So here's an area where home prices were actually dropping. And they were dropping in 2023. They were dropping in 2024, barely up earlier this year, now falling. So it'll be interesting to see what this looks like in 2020. If I look at home prices versus 2020, up 22%. That's not a ton. That means in 5 years, that's only 4% a year in prices. And if I look since 2022, look at this, folks, found something interesting, or home prices where they're not going up, forever. Home prices since 2022 in that zip code, Roger, are down 6%. So since 2022, the home values are lower, meaning if you bought in 2022, 2023, 2024, or earlier this year, could be a chance that your home is actually worth less now, not more. Obviously, it's very specific to the house and the street, but in general, that's what that zip code's showing. Huh. Haven't seen one like this in Ohio yet, or not many anyway. So in the last 5 years, your house is up 22%. In the last 10 years, it's up 66%. But look at that decline. Look how at one point homes, a 10-year appreciation on homes going back 10 years was 104%. Now it's 66%. You're definitely losing value right now. That's interesting. I wonder what the price cuts are. I don't know if they're going to tell me. I don't know if I can see that or not on here. Yeah, price reductions. 46%. 46%. Whoa, whoa, whoa. That means nearly half of every home on the market right now, of your 149 homes or whatever you had, half of all the homes have had a price cut. That is that means that there are definite opportunities. I would have to assume in that area. Maybe I should go hunting there. Goodness gracious. People just got in over their skis. They probably over leveraged themselves. That's kind of an assumption, but I think you're probably seeing a lot of investor flips there. So you said you want to buy an investment property, and then your next comment was, could you also look to use it as an STR, short-term rental, to offset the mortgage a bit and use personally as a family getaway? Yeah, I mean, I guess if on a short-term rental, you can do anything you want like that, right? You have to check the regulations inside Columbus. So check the regulations on short-term rentals. I would also check them on rentals, because I've seen some stuff start to come through Facebook in particular saying that, hey, there are registries, there are fees you're going to have to pay as a landlord now annually in the city of Columbus. And certainly with short-term rentals, there may be some rules and taxes you should be aware of. My overall thought on short-term rentals, I own some, is that if you buy them, my preference is to buy them as utilitarian. I like to buy them in smaller towns where they need a good place for traveling professionals to stay, not in a tourist town and not in a trendy area. Now, you can make money doing that. I'm sure there are people that do make money, but overall, I think that is much more difficult. I'd prefer to be able to just put a unit on the market that it's not expensive to rent, and people will stay in it. And my trick is that I do it for 1 month minimum. So I'll only rent to people for 1 month at a time or more. And so I'm getting, professors, nurses, contractors. I've had a basketball coach from a local college stay in one of my units, and they just want a kitchen, a bathroom in a decent area where it's clean, quiet, no frills. Everything's been redone in the apartment, but the Taj Mahal. I don't have like granite counters. I've got a little tiny kitchen. Don't have amazing appliances, but everything is nicely updated. And so, they have I have like a free washer and dryer on site and stuff like that. Good parking. I think that's the wave of the future for short-term rentals. You've got traveling professionals that don't want to stay in a hotel for a month at a time. It's kind of like an underserved market. That's my opinion on short-term rentals. But you can buy one and offset the mortgage, certainly, and have it as a getaway, sure. The areas where I buy short-term rentals are not getaway areas. They're like just any town USA. But if I were you, I would find, and I wanted to buy an investment property in 43206. You may have your shot. I mean, I would be making ridiculous, disrespectful offers to houses, duplexes, whatever you can find that meets your buy box. I would make those offers on homes that on properties that have been on the market a while and have had price cuts. And 50% of all the houses there have had a price cut. I'd be looking for the ones that maybe even expired listings where they just gave up. They're like, man, I had this on the market for a year and I couldn't sell it. Go talk to them. And I would be willing to write as many offers as it took to find a property that made sense, right? That fit your buy box and was a great deal. Don't buy a good deal, buy a great deal. Be patient and find a great deal because they're out there, especially in a market like this, where I'm seeing a lot more inventory, tons of price cuts, and days on market is high. I would definitely do that. Let's look at rent there, by the way, and see what that says. Typical rent, $1,600 is the typical rent there. Not that I don't know if that helps you or not, but rent year over year up 3.3%. So rent's not crashing there. But you'll probably be able to scoop something up from an investor that made a bad decision. Just don't make a bad decision as well, right? So do great deals, don't do good deals, only great deals. You should, if you really want to check out short-term rentals and rentals in general, I'd encourage you to check out One Rental at a Time on YouTube. And the guy that runs it, Mike Zuber, has a school, SKOOL. He has a school community you can join for $20 a month. And it's an online community of mostly small landlords, small investors. And there's some great free workshops in there. I mean, you have to pay for the school fee, which is like $20 a month, but the actual, groups themselves don't cost extra. And there are people from all over the country, even in Ohio. So I would encourage you to check that out to learn more about short-term rentals and even being a landlord in general and an investor. One Rental at a Time has more free info than any other site I've ever seen. And his interviews are fantastic. So anyway, that's my pitch for One Rental at a Time. But I hope that helped. Oh, you know what we didn't do? I don't think we looked at prices. Did we look at prices? No, we did. Down 1.2%. We looked at that. Yeah. Okay. That was interesting. Thanks, Roger. Good question, by the way. All right, got another one here. SheLoco89, 43511. 43511. Wow. Active inventory year over year, 0% growth. So you have the same amount of inventory that you did last year in 43511. But what about since 2019? Up 200%, but it doesn't look like you have a lot of homes on the market there. Looks like kind of a sparse market with listings, but you are up 200% versus 2019. Yeah, active inventory count, you only have 3 homes on the market. So this isn't going to tell us a whole lot. Like it doesn't, where is that exactly? Yeah, in the northwest corner of the state, kind of. Did I get the right zip code? 43511. Yeah, it just doesn't look like you have a lot for sale or a lot of homes, period. And traditionally, I don't think you had a lot of homes, right? Like if I look at the active inventory count, and I go back in time, I mean, you've had 5 homes on the market, 4 homes on the market. It's going to be, I mean, going to be really impossible to find out any type of trend with that. Let me look at prices. 43511. I mean, they're down right now 2% year over year, but I wouldn't read too much into that because of just the fact you only have a few houses to buy or to sell. Since 2020, you're up 30% basically. There's just, it doesn't look like there's much on the market, and it doesn't look like historically you've had much. So there's probably not a lot of population there. That's my assumption based on what I saw. I wish I could be more of a help, but there's not a lot of data. 43334. 43334. You got it, MJ. 43334. 334. What do we got here? Where is this? Yeah, kind of north of Columbus. All right, let's do inventory first. Find out what's happening. How many homes on the market? Well, year over year, down 6.3%. Fewer homes than last year. Versus 2019, you're up 33%. I'm wondering, active inventory count. Yeah, only 8 homes on the market there total. Not that many. Not that many at all. I mean, it's going to be pretty difficult. Let me look. 43334. Let me look at what. Oh, it's Marengo County, right? Let me look at a county look. That may help us. A little, may present some more data here. All right. MARE. Okay. There we go. Well, no, I don't want that. Is that right? Oh, Morrow County, my bad. We got to spell it right, Jay. Sorry, guys. Morrow County. All these counties in Ohio, they're hard to keep track of. All right, let's look at Morrow County. Probably give us some more data. Inventory, how's it doing? Active inventory year over year, up 23% versus 2019, down 6%. How many in the county? Only 79 homes for sale in the whole county. But that is higher, certainly, than 2019. Nope, it's less than 2019, but it's really close, right? About the same, 79 to 84. But you do have more homes than last year by, what, 15 homes. Let's look at prices. Prices there, up just 1.3%. Year over year, prices aren't, at least they're not exploding anymore. Since 2020, they're up just 34%. I mean, some areas, home prices are up 50, 60, 100%. So to be up 34% means that in 5 years, what's that, 6% growth approximately? Not insane. Could be worse. Could certainly be worse. Let's look at that. The home value. What do we have? $272,000. Not an all-time high. Prices have kind of leveled off. You can see it right through here. They're not growing a ton. Looks like you had your peak back right around here, 273 or so is where you had a peak, right? Now you're at 272, so they've dropped a little bit since the peak. Let me go back to active inventory count real quick. Yeah, 79. If you go back into COVID, you had 45. Sheesh. A lot of these counties of Ohio are just struggling. I don't think this is any different, MJ. But again, if you, I probably have MLS access to that area. I may, in Morrow County. But if you need specific help, let me know. You can email me. And if I can't help you because it's out of my area, I can refer you to somebody who can. Let's see. Oh, I got some more here. Evil overlords like, I'm not buying in Geauga County. I mean, just based on my data, I wouldn't rule an area out. I wouldn't do that. I would still look under the hood, like, peel back the onion, just poke around Zillow, whatever. Find a realtor there and have them give you the stats that I'm looking at here. Have them give you those same stats, but for the exact area you want to buy in. But if they pull from the MLS, it's probably a lot more, localized and up to date. Madus, Huron, Ohio, 44839. Let's start with inventory, Madus. Wow. Inventory, you're up 60% year over year. 60%. That's a lot, right? Now, you're down 30% versus pre-pandemic. But it looks like you are gaining some ground with inventory. You've got 40 homes on the market. Last year, you had 25. You go back into pandemic, you had 20. You had 24. Before COVID, you had 57. Back in 2016, you had 94 homes on the market. So you are slowly crawling out of the basement, but it's not explosive by any means. What about median days on market? How's that doing? 58 days. Homes are taking 58 days to go into contract. During COVID, they were like, there's 51 days, 46 days back in 2021. So homes are kind of basically on the market about as long as they usually are, pretty much historically. Let's look at prices. 5.5% increase in home prices there versus last year. So no relief yet on prices. They continue to go higher for longer. That's the term, right? Everybody uses higher for longer. Since 2020, home prices are up 50% there. But remember, you probably got most of that in just a couple years, as most markets did. So, yeah, like look, 2000. This is the killer year. In 2020 to 2021, home prices went up $30,000 in that 1 year. 30,000 in that 1 year, and then they went up another what? 25,000. And then they went up another nearly 20,000 in 2023. I'm sorry, 2022 to 2023 went up another nearly 20,000. Yeah. They've slowed, the price growth has slowed, but thank goodness you're not growing $30,000 a year in home prices. But it is an all-time high though, isn't it? Let's see. 299 right now. And yeah, it's an all-time high. So home prices right now, based on this data, are more expensive than they ever have been in Huron County. 44839. I wish I had better news. Unless you're a seller, then you're like, hey, look at this. Unless you have to buy there, then you're like, no. So if you're selling and buying in that same zip code, is probably not great news. Unless you have a ton of equity and you're just gonna, deal with the higher rate maybe. But if you're gonna move somewhere else, downsize, maybe you got a second home you're selling, well, then you're gonna do well. You probably should, as long as you price it right. Let's look at the price. Let's look at the not pending listing, the price reduction share. Yeah, 18% of all homes have had a price cut. Nothing like we saw in some other areas where it was half of all like in Columbus, that zip code 43206, half of all the listings have had a price cut. Only 18%, about 20% rounding up, of all homes have had a price cut, 20%. So you do have some people cutting their price, but it doesn't look like it's a desperate situation. All right. That's what I'm seeing there. Let's see who else has one. Who's next? Oh, is this what you're up to? 33434, Boca Raton, Florida. Well, look, you're always on here, so I'll be nice to you and do this one. 33434. Is that where you're headed? Or is that maybe like a winter house? We're going all the way down to Florida, folks. We're going to deviate for a second. Active inventory in Boca Raton, Florida, down 0.6% year over year since 2019, down 6%. So you maybe gaining inventory. Let's look. Yeah, look, 313 homes right now on the market. Last year you had 315. During COVID, you had 123. So you've definitely gained homes on the market. And it looks like you had it in the 300s going all the way back to 2016. You actually had 435 homes back in 2016. I mean, kind of looks like the inventory is stabilized there. Like it's not exploding anymore. It's just kind of going like sideways, almost like a normal market, heaven forbid. Let's look at prices. Wow. I'm glad you brought this up, and I'm glad I deviated into Florida because this is what a market I think a lot of people are thinking is going on inside of most markets in the U.S., but it's not, as we know, because we're looking at Ohio today. But in Florida, look at this: home prices down year over year in Boca Raton, Florida, down 8.6% year over year. So I don't know if you're selling in Ohio, Ma Deuce, and moving to Florida. If that's the case, you probably have some options for some discounts, maybe. I mean, home prices are definitely lower there. Look at this. Home prices were up 35% year over year in 2022. 35% in 1 year. You don't see that often, that type of growth. What are they since 2020? Let's look. You're up 52% still since 2020. But let's look at typical home value in Boca Raton. What do we got? 766,000. Not an all-time high. You peaked at 771. No, 776 is where you peaked in home prices. And then you came down now 766. So it's off $6,000 from the peak. Is that right? No, nearly 10,000 since the peak. And look at this run up. I mean, this is ridiculous. In 2021, home prices there, the typical home was 553,000. Now it's and then the year after that, in 2022, it was 717,000. I mean, it went up 150, 60, $170,000 in 1 year. The typical home did in Boca Raton. And it hasn't crashed, but it's not going up like that anymore. It's starting to come down. Maybe there's some opportunity there if you're looking to move, or I don't know if you are. Anyway, kind of cool to look at a market like Florida compared to Ohio. But typically I do the other markets on my national channel, but that's cool. It was a neat look. Let's see who else I got one here. Andre did that one. MJ did this one. Who else has one? Ooh, somebody's got a Grove City. Donna, thanks for joining. Grove City, 43123. Yep, I'll look at that one. And then Mod Deuce, 44003. You own 45 wooded acres. Well, I don't have land prices, but we'll look at it anyway. Thank you. You're welcome. That was a cool little exercise. Boca is my dream. Ah, well, I mean, maybe prices continue to come down there because it looks like they're, they're definitely falling now overall. Okay, so let's go back to Donna. 43123. Go back up to Ohio, up to the frozen tundra. Well, it's not frozen yet. 43123, and we're in Grove City. Year over year, home prices up 47%. No, I'm sorry, home prices. My bad. Sorry, Donna. Active inventory. In other words, how many homes on the market? Up 47%. Since 2019, up 36%. Okay. This is there's a lot of homes in Grove City. So it's interesting to see that you have more homes on the market than you did pre-pandemic. Generally speaking, when that happens, prices start to soften or come down, generally speaking. But we're going to find out if that's true when we look at home prices. Well, right now, you've got 176 houses for sale in that zip code. And that's more than you've had in the last 10 years. I mean, you go all the way back to 2016, and you don't have that many homes on the market. So at no other point have you had as many homes as you have right now. Probably a lot of newer homes. I'm guessing it could be some flips in there too. I know a lot of investors flip in Grove City. But let's see what's happening with prices. Prices still up there, up 2%. So not enough carnage to cause prices to fall. But the growth isn't what you were seeing during 2021 when prices were up 16% year over year, right? We're not seeing that at least. And since 2020, what are we at? 50% growth in prices since before COVID. So they're still elevated, and that's what in 5 years, that's about a 10% growth, right? Per year in prices, which isn't normal. So that's starting to decline, but it's the growth that's declining. Prices haven't declined yet, according to this info. And then if I look at the typical value of a house, where are we at? $335,000. Is that an all-time high? Yes, it is. Yeah. So it's still an all-time high price. Wow. And you can see right through here, goodness gracious, look at this. From 2020 to 2021, home prices went up $38,000 in that 1 year. $38,000. Now, if your home's $1 million, 38 grand's nothing. But if your home is $230,000 or you're used to a $200,000 home, a $38,000 increase in 1 year is unreal. It just never happens, except one time in history so far. And then the next year it went up $30,000. So yeah, like there's a couple other markets we looked at today where you're seeing a run up of like this 60. I mean, literally in 2 years, you got $60,000 in home price appreciation. It's like a decade, a decade of home price growth in 2 years. Man, it's sobering when you see stuff like that. You're like, what? This is what actually happened. And so for many people, it feels very, very hopeless, very challenging. And I can understand that. I mean, you could have been looking at homes a few years ago thinking, okay, well, this is like, I can probably swing this if I, save more for a down payment and this, that, and the other thing. And then all of a sudden it's like, nope, way out of reach. But there are ways to find opportunities. You have to just be willing to do things others are unwilling to do. And you have to have a lot of patience and make a lot of offers and see a lot of homes, which I work with clients all the time to do that. All right. So that's Grove City. I would say if inventory continues to rise like it is, Donna, you may see some lower prices It really also depends on what types of homes are listed. If they're all really, really expensive homes, like new builds, like $600,000 new builds, it may not help prices. If on the other hand, they're all $350,000 homes or 300 or $250,000 homes, then yeah, you may see some price reductions, sale price reductions, real reductions, because the inventory is growing like it is. But watch that inventory, and I'll keep watching it with you. 44003. You have another one, huh? All right, let's look at it. 44003. Wow. Okay, you're way out east, huh? Active inventory year over year, 93% up. This isn't land. This is single family homes. Or rather residential. Sorry, residential property. Not vacant land. Since 2019, down 44% in inventory. And home prices year over year, they're up 3.2%. Hasn't crashed, not coming down yet. Since 2020, what do we got? Up 53%. So the inventory is, let me look at the count real quick. You only have 15 homes in that zip code on the market right now. I guess it's better than 5 that you had during COVID. There's not enough homes, it looks like, to cause price pain. Certainly not enough homes. And I don't know where you would get the homes, if they're building new ones out there or not. I mean, people are hanging on to their homes right now, longer than ever because the switching costs are so high. Wow, look at the typical home value there. 62 grand. $62,000. Boy, homes are a lot less expensive there. And let me just go back and look again. I want to just look at the prices. Up 3.2%. So they're still up. I don't know about land though. You'd have to get with a realtor in that area that knows vacant land, that knows, acreage. So there are realtors that specialize in that. And yeah, shoot me an email if you need some help. I can help you find somebody out there. All right, let's see. What else do we got? Yeah, you know the drill. Give this nerd a thumbs up. Thanks. We got a whole whopping 9 people watching right now. It's a record. No, it's not. But I picked a weird time today, kind of. I was kind of playing around thinking maybe noon's a better time for people. I don't know. Maybe I'll go back to the weekend doing these on like Sunday night. You have to let me know what you think, if that's a better time or not. Jason does deserve it. He does a great job here. Thank you. I appreciate it, ML. Yeah. Somebody else had a couple comments up here though. It was ML, I think. Let's see. We found homes in Grove City, but okay, you already told me that. The billions. What's up, Space Rangers? The billions in lottery money is supposed to fund the school system. Ask yourself, where is the money? Trillions in gas taxes supposed to fund the roads and law enforcement and EMS. Yeah, a lot of people ask this, and the research I've done tells me that the lottery money goes into a general education fund. I haven't figured out what they do with that money, but it's a general education fund. The majority of the lottery money goes to lottery winners. That's what I discovered when I did some research on it. But I mean, there's going to be grift in the system. There always will be. We'll never get rid of the grift, ever. I don't think so. And there's been grift in the monetary system since there was the first monetary market, right? Somebody had something somebody else did because they were a grifter. So I think they're just going to keep taxing us. If it's not property tax, it'll be another way. And the way that the economy functions, I'm not sure that that's going to end. Unfortunately, I just don't. Not sure it will. But I think it still makes sense to talk about it, to sign the petitions, to vote the way you want to vote, and to certainly, come up with solutions. I still think that makes sense. But I think the most important thing is protecting your six, right? Protect yourself and your family from what's happening financially and prepare and be realistic. Be realistic that the property taxes are going to continue to go up. Utility bills will continue to go up. Jason, did you know that ads keep popping up over your live stream? Yeah, it's what YouTube does. I apologize. If I turn ads off on these live streams, YouTube won't show it to hardly anybody. That's just how it is. Well, there's only eight people on, and you guys are kind of loyal, so I'll ask you. I am going to start a membership, and I'm going to they won't have any ads at all. It'll be a very small fee a month. And that way we can do member only live streams and not have any ads at all. So I am looking at doing that. I've considered Patreon as well. So that's something that's in the works to reduce the pain in the rear with ads. They cut off what you're talking about. Sorry. Yeah, I know it's a pain. I didn't miss Geauga County. I did that earlier. What is Ohio's foreclosure rate? That's a good question. I just looked at that data. I'm going to do a video. I'll cover that in the next live, Modus. What's the foreclosure rate in Ohio? I don't have the data on my fingertips. It'd be nice if it was in this data, but it's not. Let's see. All I want is property tax spread among all taxpayers, not just homeowners. Yeah, I mean, in a weird way it is. Because renters are paying rent that then flows to the property owner that has to pay the property tax. So when I get a property tax increase, I mean, it doesn't happen every time I get a property tax increase, but I increase my rents every year. And if property taxes continue to go like the way they are, I'm going to have to continue raising rent over and over again. So in a weird way, they kind of do pay for property tax, but not directly. However, there are a lot of tax abatements, like big companies that don't pay property tax at all on new developments, right? Or they don't for 10 years. So in those situations, like Intel got what, $2 billion in property tax breaks. So those guys aren't paying property tax. Try buy me a coffee. You keep all the money, no fees like the others. I'm thinking about that too. That's a great point. Yeah, maybe I'll do that. Maybe I'll do that, Modus. Yep. Okay. Well, you guys have been fantastic today. I love the Ohio people. I love interacting with you. I don't care. There's only 8 people on. Doesn't bother me at all. I just like providing value. I'm hoping somebody can get some more nuggets of info on their local housing market in Ohio versus, just reading the mainstream headlines on Facebook, right? So this is all for you guys. I'm going to keep doing this. I'm never going to, or I'm not going to stop doing it as far as I know. And I hope it's valuable. I hope you get something. I certainly always get something from interacting with you guys. So have a great day, a great weekend. And I will see you next week on the Ohio Housing Nerd. I'm out of here.